It's party time, my golf story brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers. And the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com. Now here's your host, Kevin Walsh.
Hey, what's going on? We got a good show for you. This is a first for us in the It's Party Time, My Golf Story. We have an inventor who has a product that no doubt you've seen it before. And he's going to walk us through how he came up with the idea about his life in golf as a caddy, as a player, somebody who's chased it, as an entrepreneur, somebody who's like that, where golf runs through his veins. Jim Hackenberg, he is the founder of the Orange Whip. No doubt you've seen it. Maybe you have one in your bag. Hopefully you'll put one in your bag after this conversation, because I think you're really going to like the product and just the genesis behind it. Jim Hackenberg is our guest. I thought I would take a moment to update you on the business of the podcast. 3,300 subscribers and 100,000 plus views. And I think in the end, the reason why why they're turned on to the It's Party Time, My Golf Story podcast is because the quality of the guests, the people that come on, they give it up. They tell us the story behind the stories. Now, I love that from my journalism roots. It's not always the story and the person, it's what's behind it, what makes them tick. And I think that's what we've had. Do me a favor. This helps us to continue the podcast in perpetuity, and that is the goal. Like the podcast and subscribe to it, because ultimately that affects the algorithms and all the nerds that track the data at YouTube and other places and future potential sponsors. It's all about that. So if you've done it already, I appreciate it. If you haven't, would you take a moment and just do that? And also a big thanks to our title sponsors, Party Drinks. If you're looking for an alternative to a cocktail on the golf course and you're tired of the crappy seltzers and you're tired of pretending that High Noon tastes good, then drink something that really hits the spot. Strong, smooth, for golfers, by golfers, Party. And if your dreams are to live in the Southwest Florida area and you want to be on a golf course, nobody better than the golf real estate pros at suncoastdreams.com, a division of fine properties in the greater Sarasota area. Vince Visicaro and Gene Walsh, they got you covered. They live at Lakewood National Golf Club, which is the hottest golf community in America. And there is some inventory. They're not going to last long, but if that's your dream, there's no better place. That's where I live. We have a Corn Ferry Tour event that just finished up, and the players absolutely love it, and the community loves it as well. All right, so enough of that. Let's bring the man on board, Jim Hackenberg, the founder, the creator of Orange Whip Golf. Man, you came dressed to the party on a night. You look like you're in uniform. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Yeah, I wear quite a bit of orange, as you could only imagine. But yeah, no, I'm happy to be here, Kevin. Thank you.
Well, where are you joining us from? Where exactly are you?
So I'm in Easley, South Carolina, which is just outside of Greenville, South Carolina. But people who a better reference would be, I live about 45 minutes from where they filmed Deliverance. So if that's any reference to you or anyone you know, that would be a better example. But it's a beautiful area. The golf is great. The weather's great. I'm here for good.
Okay, sounds good. And you got a good thing going with the Orange Whip. I want to get into that. But I always like to go back to the roots. Where does your golf story begin?
So I grew up in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I'm number 8 of 9 kids. No one played golf in my family. My parents didn't play. No siblings played. I was lucky enough that I had some neighbors, some buddies of mine whose dads would take them out to play. And I would go out and walk with them when I was like 12 years old. And they'd let me take a 5-wood or something and smack it around. And I immediately started to fall in love with this idea that when you could connect with that golf ball and watch it fly, it was a pretty amazing experience. I was a baseball player in the summers and a hockey player in the winter. But in the summers, I played baseball since I was 4 years old. The summer of 13 years old, I decided to get a season pass at this 9-hole course that was owned by the University of North Dakota. And it was $32 for the whole season. And we probably played 36 to 45 holes every day. So I got a pretty good bargain out of that $32 investment. And
Holy
I tell you what,
smokes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I fell in love with it. And I quit baseball halfway through my 13th year summer. And I knew that baseball was taking up too much time. I needed more time for golf. So I knew immediately I loved it. And it was something I could do with friends. I could also do it by myself and have just as much enjoyment. So I was hooked very quickly. And it took me a while to gain some confidence with the game. But by the time I was 15, I was pretty proficient at the game.
Well, what do you mean by that? Like, how proficient were you?
Well, I made it to the varsity in ninth grade of high school, or ninth grade, and I was playing varsity events. And I was probably shooting 80 to 83 or something in that regard. But I was getting it around, and I was comfortable with that. So playing varsity in ninth grade was a good accomplishment for me then.
And I imagine playing with older players and better players had an impact on you. Was there anybody in particular that you played a lot of golf with that you learned more from than anybody else?
Well, yeah. When I was after finishing ninth grade, you can get a driver's license in North Dakota. You have to take driver's ed, but I did that, and I got a job at the Grand Forks Country Club, and that opened every door for me. It's a great golf course, tons of great players. Some people from the university played there, and I got a chance to play with them. The head pro was a great guy, Leo Marshall Jr. He helped me tremendously. So meeting all these passionate, real golfers changed my whole world, and it opened up a whole new idea for me. It's like, wait a second, I could maybe pursue this as a career or my life, or wherever golf can take me, I'm going.
Yeah, that's cool, because when you're around golf, you're around good people, you're around people of clout, people that are established in business in the community. And I think in a lot of ways you aspire to be like them, and you mature faster than maybe some of the other kids, because you hear adult conversations, you hear business conversations. Is that what it was like for you?
Very much, because like you said, I mean, they're accomplished people, but they're also passionate about golf. So they take their business or their lifestyles toward golf. And I witnessed that, and I watched that. And it was funny to see, well, this guy's a banker, but when you get him on the golf course, he's all golf, and he's all focus, and he's all grind. And I learned a lot about that. So yeah, that experience I can never replace. It was the best thing that happened to me. It opened up all those opportunities, and watching great players and watching people who've succeeded in their personal lives has helped me tremendously.
Well, all of life is a stage. I'm a big believer in that. You go in and out of character depending on where you are. And I'm sure those same people that were loosey-goosey on the golf course or dead focused on that, they could be similar on at the workplace where they're dead focused, or they could be a hard ass, so to speak, there. But then on the golf course, it's like this is their playtime, and you see them for who they are. We all wear a different mask depending on what it is. As you started when did you start getting good? Because at some point I'm getting to the point where you started playing competitively and professionally and chasing it. But when did you know, hey, I might have something here?
I know the exact moment. I was a sophomore in high school. And I was always a slow starter because I played hockey all winter, and then I'd pick up the clubs in March and start swinging inside because it was too cold still to play. And I always had struggles at the beginning of the year, but by late May, when the state high school tournament was, I was ready. And I was probably an 80, probably 79, 80 as an average when I was a sophomore. I went to the state tournament. I shot 71 the first day, leading the tournament. And the next day, I'm in the newspaper. There's pictures of me.
Hold on a minute. Stop. I gotta stop. So you're like a high 70 shooter at best, around 80, and you shoot a 71?
Yeah, it was my best score ever.
Oh my gosh! I mean, so this is uncharted territory. Oh. But that's walk me through. Keep going. I'm sorry. I just had to be clear on that.
So and I shot 71, and I'm in these papers, and I'm all over the place on the news, and my head's exploding. It's like, wow. So I ended up shooting 74 the next day, 145 at the tournament, but I finished third. Now, later on in our discussion, this will come back, but there was an 8th grade kid who was a phenom. I mean, he was already known to be really good. Patrick Moore, he shot 72 the first day, 71 the second day. He ended up winning it as an 8th grader. Well, Patrick Moore went on to play for University of North Carolina, All-American. He is the guy that I eventually, when we get to this, caddied for on the PGA Tour. So Pat Moore and I have had a great, interesting life in regards to golf coming out of North Dakota and where we took our accomplishments.
That's cool. Jim Hackenberg, the inventor of the Orange Whip, is our guest here on It's Party Time. My Golf Story has incredible stories about life on the road, life on the tour, mini tours, the PGA Tour, and then later the invention of the Orange Whip, which is the next phase of his life. Big thanks to the Golf Real Estate Pros of Gene Walsh and Vince Visicaro from suncoastdreams.com. If you want to live in Southwest Florida and the greater Sarasota area, there's no better place than Lakewood National. Gene and Vince are residents there, and they can help you out. Check them out at suncoastdreams.com or call 941-220-4000. That information will scroll across the bottom, in addition to places where Partee is available, and also information about where you can get the Orange Whip and get in contact with Jim if you want. So turning pro, when did that happen? And what was the genesis behind that?
Well, I'll even back up a little bit. So I moved from North Dakota after high school. I took a year off from college. I worked at a golf course, cleaning carts, picking the range, and did everything. And I was paid $3.25 an hour at a public golf course. This is the fall of 1986. And I worked on my game. My whole life was 6 hours of work that day, 6 hours of golf, and that's all I did. And I got pretty good. I took a next step up. And then the following year, I went to Arizona State. I was a walk-on to the ASU golf team. The year I was the walk-on, and that's an interesting concept as well. There's 60 kids approximately that try to play for the walk-on, and only one guy will make it. And that's only one person if they shoot course rating or better over a 6-round qualifying. Well, I ended up winning that. I got on the team, and that was the same year Phil Mickelson came in as a freshman.
Dang.
So Phil and I played together at ASU. Now, granted, there's 12 people on the team, 5 get to travel. And actually, I qualified for 2 events that year, but the coach, Steve Loy, who's his manager currently, and Steve Loy said, Jimmy, great job, but I got to bring my scholarship guys. So I did not get to travel to those events. So I'm still bitter about that 40 years later or whatever it was. But but I played there for a year and a half, then transferred to Oregon State, which still was in the Pac-10, and played there for 2.5 years and had a great time up there. And a lot of when people ask about Orange Whip, the color is orange and black. A lot of it has to do with Oregon State. They're orange and black.
Yeah, I got that. Hey, let me drill down on Phil Mickelson stuff. Did you know? I mean, he was fantastic back then. He won the Tucson Open as an amateur when he was in college. Do you have like a holy smokes, he's just playing a different game? Couple of moments?
I kind of personally believe he's underachieved on tour compared to what I thought was going to happen. I mean, he was unlike any human I'd ever met. And not just the physical side and hitting it a long ways, not his incredible short game. He had a mentality, and I tell this story often, he had a mentality different than anyone I'd ever met, and I certainly didn't have it. For example, we were playing Arizona Country Club one day. We both hit it in the right trees. He pulled it, I blocked it. And as we're leaving the tee, I'm still grumbling. I'm still mad, probably slamming a club. He picks up his bag. He is walking as fast as he can. He cannot wait to get to that golf ball and make birdie from the trees, where I'm still mad and my head's still back on the tee after I hit a bad shot. He was so optimistic that he did not care what was ahead of him. He was going to barrel through it. And it amazed me. And I saw that multiple times. And I never met another human that did that. So he's tremendous. I don't have a reason why I think he's underachieved, and he's had a tremendous Hall of Fame career, but I think he's underachieved. Now, granted, maybe Tiger Woods coming on the scene screwed up a lot of stuff. I get it. But Phil Mickelson was tremendous, and he was a great guy. Everybody got along with him. He was a fun guy, but his passion was unseen that I'd never experienced it.
That's cool. If not for Tiger, he would have made runs at Jack's, at all Jack's accomplishments and major championship victory. If not for Tiger, he would have been Tiger. But there is only one Tiger. But you like Phil? He was a good guy. He was a good teammate. Very
good and fun, and he was great. I mean, everybody liked Phil. I mean, it was easy to get along with. But he was different though too, because he just played every day. Like, we would have team practices, and Phil was excused from that to go play with somebody from Golf Digest or somebody whomever. We would have practice sessions on the range and this and that, and he would just go play. So he was always about playing and competing. Now, granted, if he had an issue where he was had a problem with his swing, he'd take one of those 300 ball bags or baskets and hit it till he figured it out, and then he was done. but he wasn't a ritual practicer. He was more of a, I'm going to go play and grind it out there.
He's a natural
Yeah.
who works at it. When you have all that natural talent and then you have the work ethic and the imagination and the balls. I mean, the guy had balls.
Big time.
In a lot of ways. That's fascinating. So you went to Oregon State, my bad. And at what point did you say, all right, I'm going to try and make a go of this and turn pro?
Right after I left Oregon State, moved back to Arizona, got a job at a golf course that winter, needed to save some money because the following summer I was going to go play the Dakotas Tour, which is where I'd started the mini tours. And it's actually a great tour. They got the North and South Dakota, Minnesota, and it's basically July and August. And a lot of pretty big name players have Tom Lehman, Woody Austin, Tom Hoagie. I mean, they had a lot of guys who played up there to get ready to go to the next level. So my goal was to work all winters at a golf course, save enough money to go play mini tours at state opens, and hopefully just keep going. But that pattern probably lasted 5 years where I would play all summer, run out of money, go back to work, save enough money to go play again in the summer and just try to milk it as long as I could. But that probably lasted 4 or 5 years, and I enjoyed it, but it's a big grind. And when you're broke all the time, it gets tough on the brain after a while. But I enjoyed it, met some great people. And in my future with Orange Whip, it really helped because I still had contacts with a lot of these people. So when I was getting started, I reached out to a lot of these people, and they were a great help to me to get the Orange Whip idea going.
That's the other part of the thing. Even if you don't have that success immediately, you can have it eventually if you're a good guy. The networking of golf there's nothing better than golf, in my opinion. Any wild stories from the mini tours, staying out late, sleeping in the car,
well,
10 guys in a hotel room?
Well, that's exactly. I slept in the car many times, but also the hotels, you're right. I mean, you try to bunk up with one person, but you'd always get 2 or 3 like, hey, man, I got no other choice. Can I just crash on the floor? And I grew up with a family of 9, so I know that experience of cramming people in, and I always tried to get away from that. I always liked my own space as I got older. But yeah, plenty of time where people just crashing on the floor, staying up too late, or doing silly stuff. But on that Dakotas tour, what's kind of fun about it was a lot of times they would host players. So you could call in advance, and they would have like a basement bedroom that you had a back entrance. And that was the dream, because then you could play the tournament and you have your own entrance, stay out all night. But everyone at this event each week, let's say we're in Rapid City, they have the Pro-Am. Well, they would be out partying with us. So it was you met a lot of great people, and they were very enthusiastic to have you there because they love to see the good players. I was Cam Beckman, who won on tour a few times. He and I would bunk together once in a while at houses, and we had a lot of fun. And especially in Rapid City, he found this guy that he was part of the Gambling Association of South Dakota, the legal gambling, but it was the guy did all right. And we had the whole basement to ourselves. He would stock the fridge with beer and steaks. I love that week there.
We just had a similar week. We're recording this on Wednesday, April 24th, this past weekend. We hosted at Lakewood National Golf Club the Lecom Suncoast Classic on the Corn Ferry Tour, and a number of players and their caddies stayed with local families. 2 of my neighbors put up players and caddies, and the players love it. And Steven Stallings Jr., who was a recent guest, said, that doesn't really happen anymore. It only happens here. So when it does, wow, you got a special thing. And it sounds like what we have here is what you had on the Dakotas tour. That's cool stuff. So eventually you decide, okay, you ran out of money. I mean, is that the reason why you stopped playing competitively?
And I played other tours, but I just ran out of money, and I was just like, I got to get serious here about what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. So,
well, Patrick Moore threw you a bone, right?
Yeah, big time. Because I got back into the golf industry working at country clubs, and I got my PGA status, and I was teaching. I was doing a lot of teaching, and he contacted me after he won his final in the 2002. He won his final event of it was nationwide tour then, and it was his 3rd event that he won that year, and knew he was going to be the number 1 guy on the PGA tour coming out of the nationwide. and he asked if I'd caddy for him at the Viking Classic, which is in Mississippi. And I think they call it something different now, but he asked if I'd come and caddy for him. And then
is it now the Sanderson's Farm event?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah, keep going.
And he asked me to caddy for him. So I said, sure, I'd love it. So we went and did that. We got along great. Well, we've always been buddies, but you never know what that situation will be like. And it worked out wonderful. I started with him January of 2003 on the regular tour. And we played in Hawaii, then Palm Springs, and then Phoenix. We had 3 good events. Hawaii, actually, he missed a cup, but he actually played pretty good. He missed it, but then he played pretty well the next 2. I'm like, and he's starting to move up the leaderboards and get in contention. And I'm going, this is going to be great. This is exactly what I'm waiting for. He took the week off after Phoenix. And I said, and Pat's a grinder. Pat would hit balls for 4 hours a day. I mean, he would just grind. And I go, take it easy on your body, relax. So he took a week off. We meet up again in San Diego at Torrey Pines. And I go, hey, did you take a break? He goes, no, I hit a lot of balls. He goes, I'm a little sore. He started to get this issue with his neck and his left shoulder. And he was really sore. And by Wednesday, he goes, Hack, my nickname is Hack. He goes, Hack, I don't think I can play this week. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, I'm hurting. And then they went and checked him out, and he couldn't play. So he pulled out of that event. The next tournament we go to, he practices again before the event. And he's like, I can't do it. So they check into him, and he ended up getting a bulging disc in his neck, and it was slipped out. And he had to take about a month off. Then when he came back, he still was hurting. So it was kind of a bumpy road of, could he play? Was he able to? Was he not able to? So that was kind of up and down. And then that went on for that year and then part of the next year. And then after 5 months into the next year, 2004, I went back to teaching because as he was hurt so often and we weren't making cuts, it was like, I'm actually losing money caddying. So I went back to teaching for a bit. And then I was fortunate the next year to meet a good friend of mine from the tour, Glenn Natchik, who's a Canadian, but he lived in Florida. But he asked me to caddy. And that lasted about 6 months, and he was having some health issues as well as missing cuts. So I went back to teaching probably 2005, summer of, and that was my last caddy days. But during that 2003 to 2005 window is when the concept, the idea, the what led me to the Orange Whip developed. And it took a long time to develop, but it happened in that window.
I want to get into that in just a sec, but just the caddy experience. Tell me a good caddy story. I mean, they're the real characters of the PGA Tour, aren't they?
Very much. Yeah, there's some interesting cats, and there's some really nice ones, and there's some jerks, but they're all pretty interesting because they have to be their own man. They have to be their own person because, as you would guess, a lot of PGA Tour players are very strong-willed, strong-minded people. And I saw some, I wouldn't say fights, but I saw some tense moments between caddy and player when we were out on the course. And it gets kind of awkward at times. The one that comes to my mind was we had a rain delay in New Orleans. And when we went back out, the caddy and the player, they were monkeying around with 2 different 4-irons, more like a driving 4-iron or 3-iron. I don't remember what it was. But they were trying to figure out which one. Well, the caddy had put them both in the bag. And after the first hole, the player recognized that he had 15 clubs in the bag. That was very tense and awkward at that moment because the caddy was a buddy of mine too. So it was kind of awkward for everybody. But yeah, it's great though. I mean, the caddies, they earn their keep. I mean, it's not easy work. People think, I could caddy out there. No, you couldn't. It's a lot of work and it's getting harder all the time. Like I just learned that the caddies in the practice rounds now carry the Foresight machine with them. I mean, they have a strap on their shoulder and they're carrying their launch monitor and the bag. And each shot, they're setting it down and judging each shot based on that. So caddy is not just carrying a bag. You got to be an emotional friend. You got to be.
Sometimes you got to be their punching bag. You just got to take it because they're just they just need to unload on someone or something.
Exactly. And then even just the details. I mean, you see the yardage books on TV, the amount of notes and information people put in, it's incredible. And again, I think I was good, but I was an average caddy, I would say. I mean, there's guys that got up at 5 a.m. and they'd walk the course before the round and check everything out. Well, I wasn't doing that, but they they're impressive, and it's hard work, but it's rewarding. And rarely did I ever finish in the top 20 with either player. But when I did, the competitive juices and the excitement are all there, even for the caddy. I mean, I would love to have experienced playing a final 9 holes right in the hunt. I did not, but it would have been a great experience because you get nervous. I mean, you get concerned.
Oh, yeah, because you're trying to help. You're trying not to hurt in a certain way. I watched a 3-man playoff at the Lecom Suncoast Classic here at Lakewood National. One of my buddies, Max, was on the bag, and his guy had the lead coming in the Sunday. He was in the playoff, and he got bogeyed the first hole and was out. And I could just see it on the player's face, but I could see it on the caddy's face too. I mean, they were emotionally drained. But that's the drama of it.
Yeah.
It's compelling. It's very interesting. All right, so let's get into the Orange Whip. Its birth was kind of on the PGA Tour, watching a couple of guys. Why don't you walk me through it?
Yep. So I was a very technical golfer. I read every book I could. I talked to everybody who would talk about the golf swing, and I would process. I mean, I was a multiple swing thought kind of guy. And the more I did that, it got so complicated. When I got to the tour and I was on the range with Patrick Moore for 4 hours every day, and Pat had actually a very strong grip. I mean, his left hand was very strong, so he would have to hang on at impact. And I think that eventually led to his neck and shoulder issues. But he was out there all the time. Well, I would start to look around and watch other players just for curiosity, just to pass time. And I started to find some guys I really liked to watch. And one of them was Jeff Ogilvy. And I'd watch Jeff Ogilvy from Australia, and his rhythm, his balance, and the way he would swing the momentum of that golf club, I could stand behind him and know exactly where every ball was going because you see the momentum of the club heading that way. So he was my guy. So when Pat would say to me, let's say we played a morning round, he goes, "Hey, Hack, meet me at the range at 2:00. I'd get there at 1:45, and I'd look up and down the range, and I would find the person I wanted to stand next to and watch them. Because there's many other Retief Goosen, Ernie Els, I mean, there's tons of guys. Everybody has a great swing out there, but there's certain guys who had this rhythm that I was all about. So if Jeff Ogilvy was there, I would beeline it and put the bagger right next to him, and I would watch that. And let me throw this.
Did he know you were watching him?
No, not at all. And let me interject this brief story about that, because he had no idea. Probably about 5 years ago, I was Orange Whip was a sponsor for the links at Petco Park, which is the baseball field for San Diego Padres, and they turned it into a 9-hole course. And
I know exactly what it is. And Callaway Golf did a big part of it. Chip Brewer, who's the CEO of Callaway Golf, I grew up with him in suburban Philly. He's a little bit
Callaway
older.
was heavily involved, yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic. And when I heard the idea, I'm like, and then I saw it, I'm like, that works. That's cool. Continue.
I was doing that. I was in San Diego, and I had heard that there's a place called Goat Hill Park, which is in Carlsbad, California. And it was owned by the guy who bought it was John Ashworth. And he's very laid back, and he wanted to blend surf culture and golfing culture. So we bought this dumpy par 3 course, turned it into 18 holes, half par 3s, half par 4s. But he encourages barefoot golf. He wants music. You can have your dog out there, very casual. Well, they have a tournament every year called the Brawl. What is it? Some kind of brawl. But they get some tour players. They got Jeff Ogilvy, Chris Riley, Dean, the Hawaiian. I can't remember Dean's last name, and Xander Schauffele. So I'm going
Dean Wilson. Yeah,
Dean Wilson. Exactly.
Yeah, he's from the Big Island. And yes, Xander. I've heard Xander talk about this, and Alan Shipnuck talks about it all the time too. Keep going.
So I left my post at the Petco Park for about 3 hours because I wanted to go meet Jeff Ogilvy. That was my intention. So I had my Orange Whip gear on. I had an Orange Whip, and I go, all right, I'm going. So I headed up there, and it's the most casual thing in the world. There's no ropes. There's no restraining. People are everywhere, and people are talking. It's like golf probably was like 60 years ago at a tournament or more. And I loved it. So anyhow, I knew Chris Riley because we played a little college golf against each other. He's a little younger than I, but we played together some, and I knew him. I go, hey, Chris, can you introduce me to Jeff? And he goes, oh, he's the nicest guy in the world. He waves over, hey, Jeff, this guy wants to talk to you. So I walk over, and I got my gear on. I got my Orange Whip. I'm 10 feet away from Jeff Ogilvy, and he goes, hey, mate, I got one of those. And I go, you're the reason it exists. It's your golf swing that developed this idea for me. And he goes, no way. And I go, I promise you, this is all because of Jeff Ogle, your golf swing. And he goes, oh, I don't believe you. And he goes, and I go, really, it is. It's all based on your motion, your balance, your rhythm. And he goes, you know what's interesting? He goes, I have people all the time go, can you help me with my golf swing? Can you teach me golf? And he goes, I don't teach. I don't know anything about teaching. I don't want to teach. I tell every one of those people, go buy an orange whip, swing it every day. I go, man, that's beautiful. So I had Jeff Ogilvy with a Sharpie sign an orange whip, the orange ball. I have it in my house. It's one of my favorite possessions.
That's cool. Is the purpose of the orange whip, I think the first of all, how long has it been around? When did it come out?
January of 2008 is when I introduced it at the PGA show.
Okay. That kind of squares. The first time I ever saw it was probably around 2010 at the Country Club in Brookline. It was just outside the Caddie Masters hut, the starter for anyone to use. And I saw people swinging and I'm like, what the heck is that? And then I'm like, well, that looks a lot better than just grabbing two clubs and swinging it. The weight of it all, it just kind of has like a nice motion. And tell me this, say a lot and a little, is the whole point of it a warm-up session, but also to get back to being athletic, less mechanics, more athletic, kind of like dancing well?
All of that, and that's what people immediately figure out is warming up and becoming more athletic. But what they don't get, and which is what I'm trying to promote, I have a patent on it, and I put a heavy steel ball counterbalance on the grip end. And if you take the orange whip and balance it on your finger with the orange ball on one end and the counterweight on the other, it's perfectly balanced. That was through trial and error. But what I figured out was when you swing a perfectly balanced device like this back and forth, it wants to be on plane. If you swing it in an awkward figure eight type motion, it'll throw you off balance. It'll feel awkward. So to teach a person how to swing on plane without telling them anything, the orange whip was designed for that purpose, and it accomplishes that purpose because it's perfectly balanced, and that's what does it. If you try to force it or control it, it will throw you off balance, and it'll take you out of your rhythm. Now, again, most people use it to warm up. They might even not recognize what it's doing, but it's helping their golf swing. And that's why I believe it's something that once it's in a bag, it stays in there. It doesn't get boring. It doesn't get useless. It doesn't stay in the garage corner. It's something they use every day, and they may not understand it, but they're benefiting from it. So it's really was the design, and I'm very proud of the patent. I've got 6 more years on the patent, so probably look to retire in about 6 years.
Good stuff. Keep selling them. I see him a lot. Jim Hackenberg is our guest here on It's Party Time. He is the inventor of the orange whip, walking us through the birth of it, just the changes of it, how it was updated, and in whose bag it was, the inspiration behind it. Jeff Ogilvy, I didn't know. I would have loved to have seen his face when you told him he's the guy. But I see it. I see it everywhere. Big thanks to our golf real estate pros, the team of suncoastdreams.com, Vince Visicaro and Gene Walsh. If you have real estate needs, especially in the greater Sarasota area, they can certainly help you out. And a big thanks to Party Drinks. That's the whole reason why we're here. If you're looking for a great drink alternative on the golf course, if you're tired of beer, if you're tired of pretending that High Noon tastes good and it doesn't, or crappy seltzers, try a Party. You won't go back to where you were. You're going to be drinking the sweet nectar on that. Tell me about the marketing. I mean, so you knew you had something good. I'm fascinated by, I think when you describe like how it's helping you in ways that you didn't even know, seeing is believing, but feeling is where the rubber really meets the road. Because when you try and verbally tell somebody something, showing something is great where they can really feel it. That's the difference. Yes.
Yep. And that's probably our main slogan is you got to feel it. So when I developed this idea, I call it the ball and chain. If you could swing, like there's an old weapon called the Mason chain. It's a steel ball, chain, and a handle. If you slowly start swinging it back and forth, your footwork, your body, and everything starts to rotate and move in balance. And that was my initial concept. And when I was starting to make a prototype for the orange whip, that's what I made, but it's unsafe because you go too far, it'll wrap around your neck and it'll hurt you. So I went away from that chain, but I did go to the flexible shaft. And it was really, honestly, you mentioned when I talked about it to people, this concept, the ball and chain, they'd listen and nod their head, but it would go right over their head. So I thought, I've got to make something that they understand. And I was teaching golf on Martha's Vineyard for 7 years. And that's really where the final version was made, on Martha's Vineyard, in this small shed the size of a 1-car garage where we kept all the range balls. I had my mad scientist workbench. I had a little cooler with some beer, and I had a radio. And I tell you what, and I made a version that accomplished what I was after. I go, this is it. I got it. But it was never going to be a product. It was strictly to help me teach more effectively. And my first 5 lessons after this really clunky looking thing that actually I still have, I have it at my house. This clunky looking thing, I'd use it at the end of each of those lessons. Each of the people said to me, can I buy this thing from you? And I said, you would buy this? And they go, yeah, it works great. So that's when the light bulb went off. And that's when I started to try to figure out how to raise capital to start this. And I didn't even have to raise a whole lot, but I had to figure out how to produce them and then market them. And that was part of your question, is how do you market it? I designed this for the bad golfer, for the beginner, for the person who struggles, the over-the-top slicer. But it was the better players, people like yourself, people who understand the game. They got it immediately. And that was helpful to me because once they got it and they started using it, they would share it with everyone else. And that became my mission. I'm a PGA professional. So I reached out to as many PGA pros as I knew. I went to as many golf teaching summits as I could get to and take part in and demonstrate this. And that was really my vehicle. I was showing it to all these teachers and better players, and they were sharing it with people. So it was slow growth, but it was good growth because it developed good roots for the concept. And that's what we've kind of went on ever since 2008, is that message, is get it to the better teachers, better players, and let them share it with your 30 handicappers who struggle every day. And that's what we really need. That's what we want to have this, but they have no idea what it is or why and what the benefits would be.
But if it feels right, it is. And golf's a game of feel. I mean, that's what it is. Tell me something, Jim. How's the company doing? How many have you sold?
Currently, so we're 16 and a half years, we've sold 800,000 units as of now. My goal is to get to that 1 million mark of total units. All have been made here in Easley, South Carolina. The first probably 30,000 in my garage, but we have a beautiful warehouse now. But I'm hoping for the million mark. And no, we're proud of it. The quality's great. We do have a lot of copycats coming out on Amazon, but they cannot counterbalance it. They because of my patent. So they have a ball, blue, red, yellow, whatever, and a flexible shaft. These are all made in China, and they're very cheaply made, but they cannot counterbalance it. Well, the problem with that is you could swing that thing in a figure 8 and it would still work. It wouldn't throw you off balance. It wouldn't give you the feel you need. It provides it looks similar, and they see it cheaper on Amazon, so they buy it. So that's probably our biggest problem, but we're still thriving. We're still doing very well. COVID years were our best years because everybody was able to play golf and people want to learn more. So our biggest 2 years were 20 and 21, but we still have a very valid product and a concept, and we're going to keep going. And I'm still very excited about it.
The cheap knockoffs, it must piss you off to no end.
Especially first off, it really did, because I thought I was out of business a year later is what I was assuming would happen, because Skills made a cheap knockoff right away. And I thought, man, I'm screwed. But people who tried both always liked the Orange Whip way better. Mm-hmm. And this is the part I didn't expect either, was I have a lot of friends in the golf industry that, like, we network, we know all these people. I had a lot of people fighting for me that I didn't even realize they were. Like at the PGA show, I had a lot of friends who would go up to that booth that I mentioned and say, "You're a piece of," and yelling at them, "You're bad," and blah blah blah, and like, get out of here. So they got a lot of uncomfortable response from a lot of PGA pro friends of mine, and I felt very happy about that. But I didn't pushed for that, but I was very proud that they were able to do that. And but then what happened was, probably in retrospect, they helped me because they helped promote the same idea. I just had the better version. So in that regard, it was good that there was more people talking about it, but this is the better version.
Yeah, and quality matters in the end. Yeah. And at the right price point, if somebody thinks something is going to make them better or they like it, and the durability of it. I mean, I see some that are they've got to be several years old, but they hold up. Do you have
I have some people who bring me the originals because I know the original version, what it looked like, because there's some differences, and they'll bring it to me and I go, man, I can't believe you still have this. I go, save this for eBay. This is like a hickory shafted club. Yeah.
So how many different versions, like how many alterations have you made over the years from the first one? Like we're on Orange Whip number what at this point?
Probably 20. I mean, okay. There's probably 10 to 15 before I introduced it, and then we kept improving it. But the concept was always the same, and my goal was always to find parts from the U.S. So all the parts are from the U.S. And once we found the orange ball, which we make in Delaware, and that was a big help, because what I used to do is I used to take lacrosse balls, put them in a drill press, core out the center, and then put a fishing weight in there. And I had this process so it wouldn't come off. And I tell you what, if you want a bad smell, in my small little workshop at my house, drilling out rubber balls, that smell is terrible after a short time. But that's what
I played lacrosse. I know all about that smell.
Yeah.
So that's familiar territory for me. Tell me something. Do you have like a holy smokes moment where you saw your product, the Orange Whip, in a top player's bag, and you're like, oh my God, he has it too, or she has it?
Actually, probably about 2-3 years in, I was watching, it might have been the Canadian Open, but Retief Goosen had it in the bag on TV. And it's legal to carry, but you can't swing it during around. But it's perfect. It's like an alignment stick. As long as you don't take it out and lay it on the ground and use it, you can carry it, because it's not a golf club. So when Retief Goosen had it in there, I was like, man, that is awesome. So I'm pausing the TV and taking pictures, and yeah, that was great. And then we had more and more tour players started grabbing onto it. And currently we have a number of tour players who carry it each week. Now I'd say a majority of tour players have one in their home or have them at their training facility. And we get a lot of like even Phil Mickelson a couple of years ago at the PGA Championship, he's wearing his face mask because COVID time, and he's swinging in the parking lot to warm up. And so we get a lot of that footage as well. But when I caddied on tour, I used to wear a Nature Valley granola hat, and they sponsored us, and you'd get $50 a day for wearing that hat. If you made the cut, you made $200 that week. If you didn't, you made $100, but you get paid at the end of the year. So we started a similar program where we pay the caddies. We don't pay the players. We don't pay the managers. We pay the caddy $50 a day to carry a whip. And we've, on the tour, we've got probably 12 or 14 players. On Lilia Vu carries it every week. She's won 4 times in the last year and a half.
Yeah, got to world number 1 until Nelly Korda went nuts, and
exactly
just won 5 straight as of this recording.
That's amazing. So yeah, and actually Nelly used to carry it, and I wish she'd get it back because she's top notch. But yeah, we've had some great players. Actually, let me tell you this story. You'll love this story. This is probably 10 years ago, and I still kick myself for not filming it, but I didn't think it was appropriate to film it, so I didn't. But I wish I would have, because it would have been my forever commercial. I'm at a PGA Tour event on the range. It was easier for me to access back then than it is now. Jim Furyk comes by, and Jim goes, hey, I've seen this thing around. What is it? Tell me about it. And I go, well, it teaches rhythm and balance, and it just coordinates the whole movement. And he goes, well, how do you use it? I go, just take your normal grip, normal setup, and just start swinging slowly back and forth, like a putting stroke, and then go into a fuller motion till you get your full swing, and then power it up. Well, I'm standing behind him or looking down the line. So we can all picture Jim Furyk swing from down the line. Like if I'm this way, we know how he goes. He starts swinging it back and forth. And this is a testament to the patent and the counterbalance. He's swinging it back and forth slowly. He's listening perfectly. He's doing exactly what I'm asking. He gets it going. He gets to his full swing. He is perfectly on plane the whole time. There's no way you would think that was Jim Furyk. You'd go, that is a body double. That is not Jim Furyk. Perfectly on plane, perfectly in balance. He gets it going faster each time. And he stops. He goes, "Man, that feels awesome." I go, "You can't believe how good it looked."
Well, anything looks better than. How did David Faraday, like his swing has been described as an octopus falling out of a tree or a man swatting bees inside of a phone booth? So Jim's golf swing actually looked like a golf swing because of the orange whip?
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And I didn't film it, and I had a phone in my pocket. And and again, if I ever get the opportunity and I get a chance to talk to him again, I will ask to do that again.
Well, drop my name in because I played junior golf against Jim Furyk, and he hasn't forgotten me. I'll tell you some Jim stories later on the next time we get together. Yeah. Hey, we're getting toward the end here. Tell me, just in general, what would life be like without golf in it for you?
Well, that's a great question because I don't know. I mean, from that, when I was 13 years old and played golf all day, every day, and fell in love with it, I knew I wanted something. And then the day when I was a sophomore in high school and I make a 45-foot putt to shoot 71 on the last hole with everybody on the bank of the golf course watching in the camera crews, my head exploded. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can even answer that because golf is a very big part of my life. I love it. I think about it a lot. I still play. I still compete. I'm 56 years old, but I play in all the state opens around here. I play in all the Carolinas PGA events.
Yeah, how is the game? How's your game?
I'm good. I'm a +1. I don't chip it very well. So I believe I should be a +2 or 3. And I could even putt a little better, but I don't like to miss many greens because I chunk some chips and that's a pretty poor feeling. But I'm a +1, and I still, as far as ball striking though, I'm pretty much down the middle every time. I'm at the pin a lot. I mean, my ball striking is great. I mean, I'm very accurate, very consistent. And I don't have to work hard at it like I did when I was very technical. So that's kind of a thing. But no, I love competing, and I'll try to play in the U.S. Senior Open this year. It's up in Newport, near where you're at. I'm going to. I always try to play in the Massachusetts Open as well. I love that event. I played in probably 8 or 10 of them, and I'm going to try to qualify at Pleasant Valley in late May.
Oh, cool! And the Vineyard, you got the Vineyard in your soul, it sounds like. It just sounds, Jim, in so many ways, you sound like the complete golfer, the soul for golfer, and golf completes you. When I ask you what would life be like without it, you can't imagine it because you need it. Yeah. And I think that's what our listeners and our viewers, they feel the same way. I know I feel the same way. Hey, let me give you the last word here. How can people get in contact with you? Where can they find the Orange Whip? Here's your chance to give a good plug to an already successful product.
Thank you. Yeah, just check out orangewhipgolf.com. We have a ton of information at that website. You can learn more there. But honestly, even going to YouTube and Orange Whip Golf or at Orange Whip Golf on YouTube, you're going to find a ton of information. You can take it the technical side and learn how all the details of all the drills you can do, or you can take the fun side and just show some of the fun activities you can do with an Orange Whip. But what you're going to find is it's going to really take the complication away and allow you to be freer with your golf swing and just be the athlete you want to be the Fred Couples you want to be on the golf course. And that's what my whole mission was. And it's done it for me. And I had to work really hard to be good. Now I don't work nearly as hard on my golf game, but I think I'm better. I just wish I knew now back then, because it would have been a good bonus. So yeah, just check out orangewhipgolf.com and and just try it out. If you've got a buddy who's got one, just pick it up, swing it slowly at first, back and forth, find your rhythm, and then power it up. And just feel that orange ball flying toward your target. That's the sensation I want you to have. And once you can put that into your golf shot, your golf swing, you're going to love it. It's a simple device, very basic, but you're going to love it.
Put the athleticism back in the game. Golf is a sport. Be a natural, think less, and just let the muscle memory take over. I don't think I could say it any better than that. Well, you said it a lot better than me, and you built the product. So, Jim, I wish you continued success. Let's get together sometime for a social round of golf and come back on the program. You're welcome to come back anytime, all right? How does that sound?
That's great. Hey, Kevin, do I have 1 minute that I can show you something that blew my mind about 2-3 years ago? Okay, so I'll try to do this quick. This was the original version of the Orange Whip. This is what I did at the PGA show. There's the fishing weight lacrosse ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I used this it's a cue ball. I got it from a Massachusetts company that makes cue ball or pool table balls. So this is my first version, 2008. I then learned about a teacher named Ernest Jones, who I didn't even know who he was, but I was given a lesson on the vineyard, and the gentleman said, everything you're saying is Ernest Jones. And he taught 120 years ago, whatever. And it's tremendous. He's just all rhythm. He created a thing 100 years ago. It's a steel ball, a spring.
Yeah, I was wondering what that flex was. Yeah, go ahead.
And a hickory shaft. So basically, this is an orange whip from 100 years ago. Then I had a friend, and she had a set of clubs that she got. This was in the bag. It's called Superflex. It's a cylinder, but it's just a weight, very flexible shaft, and an old green Victory grip. This is patented. So I did a little research on these people. They all created the same thing. It's a flexible shaft with a weight on it, no club face, so you don't try to control anything. You're just swinging as an athlete. I looked into it. Stephen Rhodes developed the Superflex. I found his patent. His birthday is October 25th, 1947. Ernest Jones developed this. Tremendous teacher, great book. He was born October 25th, 1887 or something. Jim Hackenberg, myself, developed this. Birthday, October 25th, 1967. So three guys, three golf pros, all created basically the same thing, and they're all born on October 25th. So I don't know if that's mystical or odd or weird, but when I realized all this, my head exploded.
Maybe there's some kind of lunar effect right now. we could probably go back in old calendars and figure that out. I'll make that your mission. You figure that one out, and then you come back. That'll be our jumping in point. All right?
Yes.
Let's call it a night. How does that sound?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate it. This is fun. But yeah, I'd love to tee it up with you.
Anytime I'm in. Big thanks to Jim Hackenberg. He is the founder, creator. He is the guy behind the Orange Whip. And a big thanks to our parent company, Party Drinks. Again, if you're looking for a great drink alternative on the golf course, then check out Party. It's available at a lot of different places, and that is the drink for you. And once again, thanks to the Golf Real Estate Pros from suncoastdreams.com, Vince Vizzacaro and Gene Walsh. If your dream is to live on Florida's southwest coast, there's no better place. And Lakewood National, where they're based, is probably the premier location in America for golf. So thank you to them. Thank you, Jim. I'll see you again. For Jim Hackenberg, I'm Kevin Walsh. We'll see you again next time on It's Party Time, My Golf Story.
Thank you.
You've been listening to It's Party Time, My Golf Story, brought to you by Party Drinks. Classically designed golf drinks for golfers by golfers, and the golf real estate pros Gene Walsh and Vince Vizzacaro. For your Southwest Florida real estate needs, check them out at suncoastdreams.com or call 941-220-4000.
This is Vince Vizzacaro and Gene Walsh with the suncoastdreams.com real estate team at Fine Properties. We've helped hundreds of families find their dream homes in golf and resort communities in Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton, Sarasota, Parrish, Venice, and the surrounding areas.
Let us be your guides to finding your dream home here as well. Learn more at suncoastdreams.com or call us at 941-220-4000.